Welcome back, everyone. Your loyal Captain Gear 100 has returned yet again for another video for you guys today. Oh my god. Once again, sorry if you hear the air conditioner in the background. It's just way too hot for me to have the dang thing off. It's just utterly ridiculous. But alright, here we are with a subscriber subscriber requested video, and after it is done, I will show you what this video was about and who requested it. But with that being said, this is another My Hero Academia What If. So, well, depending on the title, you guys already know what this is. Oh boy, this is What If Deku had All for All. It is so hard to say that name, guys, without saying, you know, All for One or One for All. It's so hard. It's much harder to say it than what you may know. But with that being said, let's just get into the video. Y'all ready? I'm ready. Cue the intro. You guys already know, gotta start off with the birth story. So, this would all begin inside of a hospital where a baby boy was just born. And, well, half of his hair was white, but the other half was green. They asked what was his name, and he was named Izuku. Izuku Midoriya. Wow. The savior of the entire world, and the bearer of the ultimate quirk, all for all, as his father held him for the first time. Welcome to the world, Izuku. Almost immediately, as if his own father's genes were so prominent that it seemed that history just had to repeat itself yet again. And within Izuku, his quirk had automatically activated, immediately taking a quirk from his own father. Now, if Hasashi, that's the name of his father, if Hasashi wasn't intrigued before, he certainly is now. Out of sheer desperation and out of a desire or a need, Izuku had activated All for One within himself. Now that had gotten his attention. Now, of course, All for One had kissed Inko on the forehead to basically just to put her asleep, just to knock her out for a little bit. And and Hasashi had requested just to hold his son for 5 more minutes while his wife slept. So they allowed it. And while they were gone, Hasashi had revealed his true intentions. As now, he looked at his son that opened his eyes, and he had bright, blazing emerald eyes, as if he was looking into a valley of, well, emeralds themselves, as just a valley of gems. But with the white hair mantled on his head, it reminded Hasashi of someone from very back then. Someone he'd always wanted to protect and keep for himself. It reminded him of his brother, Yoichi. All for One, it could no longer contain himself. He had, holding Izuku even closer to him, as Izuku just looked into his father's eyes. And of course, it's almost as if he was trying to communicate with him. My son, you will carry on my legacy. It will not end within you. You will become the next All for One. I can sense it. No, I can see it within you. Your All for One, your power, it utterly eclipses my own. I shall raise you to be my my masterpiece. No one will be able to stop us with you by my side, my son. It's funny. I never truly cared about anyone besides my younger brother. And yet you remind me so much of him. Is it just because of the way you look? No. Your presence gives off that of Yoichi's. So weak, but yet you fight so hard. Why? That's what I want to figure out for myself. Maybe I will figure that out as you get older. Who knows? But from what All For One couldn't even tell, his own son did utterly eclipse his own power. Much, much higher than even he could have anticipated from the beginning. As Izuku didn't just have All For One. No. When All For One had to hand over Izuku back to the doctors to be taken back to the ward or something like that. I don't know, to the baby ward or whatever. Whenever Izuku was sleeping and in his bed or whatever they placed the babies in, I don't know, guys. I don't have a kid. Izuku, something else within Izuku had changed. Something very, very drastic had changed. Power had begun to swell around Izuku. Unknown power, as if it was completely insane. This was unprecedented. It was rare for newborns to have quirks. It was like a 1% chance around the entire world. That's how rare it was. And Izuku's power was out of control. Seemingly unlimited amount of energy began to surge from around him. The doctors had no choice but to interfere. They picked up Izuku, but as Izuku was crying, they could only see the whites of his eyes, no pupils from within. Nothing but surging power, incredible power. What is this? What is this quirk? This is so unbelievable. It's almost unreal. And within a very dark and almost void-like world, seven people didn't know what this was. They all looked up as they saw something happening within their own world. As a woman would be asking, "What's happening? What is this?" As a big guy, as one big guy would say, "I don't know, but we have to be prepared for anything." But someone that we can barely see, who also has white hair, would say, "My brother, he did something miraculous. For the first time in his life, something miraculous just happened." As the other six would ask, "What do you mean, something miraculous? What's going on?" The true heir to both powers, One For All and All For One, were never meant to be at war with one another. They were meant to be joined within one being, the secret power known as All For All. Using all of your power, all of your abilities, for everyone's sake. That's where that name comes from. I'm sure that young Toshinori can feel this awakening too. Wow. But still, it's much different. Upon the outside, this power One For All is known to have a limit on the user. But hold on one sec, guys. But baby Izuku here seems to have no limit on his power, as the power was never passed down to him traditionally as if, a strain of DNA, nor was it genetically forced onto him. The power was just something that he was genetically born with. So there truly was no limit to how high he could grow. But that also included the power of All For One as well. His father's power. The power of All For One, the most notorious villain around the entire world. And he had it. He had both. World-ending amount of power in just a newborn's hands. But Izuku was a lot stronger than anyone could think. All of his father's power, everything, every quirk he's stolen, conjured up in the making of a lab due to a doctor. Anything even he's taking from a Nomu, and even combined quirks into a crazy amalgamation. Izuku was set to handle all of those conditions. Nothing could stop him. He was just born with no limit. A child truly born perfect. Now that is a story worth going through. But this was only the origin story. Well, the birth story. But let's get into early childhood life. As I said before, young Izuku had a mixture of white hair and green hair. Nearly half of his hair was entirely white from the top of his head, but into the bottom it would start to darken and fade into green, a mixture of both of his parents. They were both such hard-working people, Hasashi Midoriya and Inko Midoriya. Both of Izuku's parents loved each other a lot. Hasashi had tried to spend so much time with Izuku that he almost forgot to go to work every now and then. Inko had brought this up a few times, but Hasashi was merely only an office worker. But it's fine. But Hasashi, during his alone times with Izuku, they would bond very greatly. Many times, Izuku would wait at the door for Hasashi to come home, and when he would, he would see his son happily watching him, just waiting for them to play again, like always. But whenever Inko wasn't looking, Hasashi always knew that Izuku could understand him. But he had wondered, how could Izuku truly hide this power? This power was of great magnificence. And yet, Izuku had no idea exactly how to hide this from his mother. A power like this must be treasured. It must be kept secret. It must be in the hands of All For One. But Hasashi had loved Izuku truly, as if he loved Yoriichi. He couldn't bear the thought of parting ways with his own son. He didn't want to leave Izuku's side. Izuku would always throw a tantrum every time his dad wasn't around. But he did love his mom. It's not like he didn't. He treasured both of his parents. He just felt a much deeper connection with his father. Inko never truly understood it, but she guessed it up to be a boy's thing. She wishes that she had a daughter, but Hasashi was evident on not having any more kids, as Izuku would just be their one and only son. a very nice tribute. That way he could spend all of his time with Izuku. This family was the happiest it ever could have been. But nothing built can last forever. As you may know. Hold on one second. As Izuku had gotten older, him and his father would bond a lot more than usual. In the original timeline, Hasashi had left to work overseas, never to be seen, again by Inko or Izuku. But he decided to not leave overseas. And, okay, if you guys want to know, All For One decided to not do All For One things for a while, just to stick around in Izuku's life more. Instead, he wanted to spend more time with his son and family. So, in the meantime, he had decided to actually linger around. He decided to quit his office job because they were going to send him over and he refused. So they fired him. Oh, jeez, I just contradicted myself right then and there. Sorry, guys, I'm still not the best storyteller, but I'm trying my best here. But in that meantime, Izuku and Hasashi would always talk about their favorite heroes and their favorite quirks, and what exactly would they be, and how would they use them. Izuku had always said he wished he had a power, Izuku said he wanted a very versatile power that no one really thought to look on, but yet it could be very great with the amount of potential. And Hasashi had asked his son what would that quirk be, and Izuku told them the power to control darkness itself. To have the darkness in the palm of his hand and to manipulate it as if it were his own being. A very underutilized power, but something he could definitely shape into a wide and varied powerhouse. Hasashi had agreed that it could and will be very powerful. But Hasashi was thinking of something different. And Izuku had asked what's the type of quirk that his father was looking. While Hasashi on one hand had told him that one of his favorite quirks had actually come from All Might, the ability to stockpile strength and use it in one big clump. And Izuku had brought up a good point. If you actually think about it, Fat Gum's quirk is actually like All Might's, but just a lower tier version of it. All For One had actually thought of that for a second, because it really is. To convert, fat into energy, and to use it as kinetic energy. It actually does match All Might's power, but it's just on a much, much weaker scale. Oh yeah, All For One doesn't know that, Izuku's quirk is, the way it is. Only All For One knows about, his power within Izuku. And he made Izuku promise that, when he was younger. So let's flash back a little bit. I'm trying to think. Oh wait, I got it. As we cut to a much younger Izuku, he's 5 right now. I'm gonna say he's at the age of 3. At the age of 3, Izuku showed off his power to steal other quirks to his dad. He's doing it off of instinct. He doesn't know that that this is his quirk in all of its entirety yet. But All For One made him promise to keep this a secret from his mom, because a power like this is super scary, and it's the same as his power, but society would never understand. They would freak out if they knew about this power, if they knew what it was. So Izuku had decided to keep it under wraps, and had just decided to use one of his father's many quirks. And you guys are wondering, what do you mean his father's many quirks? As I said, Izuku became the perfect child, adapting everything from All For One and One For All. And that includes the massive amounts of quirks that All For One has amassed throughout his years. That's right, they all pass down into Izuku for Izuku to actually use. And they're much stronger than the last. It's as if every quirk had gotten an upgrade. But also, the All For One quirk itself was an upgrade on its own, as Izuku's All For One worked completely differently. Izuku's All For One is like this. He can see your quirk automatically and what it can do. And if he were to steal the quirk, it would already gain its quirk evolution. But being able to grow even stronger than it already is, Izuku's the one with all of the power. But there's something weird about Izuku's All For One that makes it even more broken than it already is. Allow me to tell you that. So now let's time skip forward into Izuku's school life. Izuku had a best friend named Katsuki Bakugo. It was really hard for the two to get along, especially since everybody knew Izuku already had a quirk. He just never really showed it off. But the day came when Bakugo had finally used his quirk, and Izuku just wanted to demonstrate it a bit. He knew of his father's power to take quirks, but when he took it from Bakugo just to show it off, Bakugo had completely flipped out on him. He called Izuku a villain for stealing his quirk, all for the sake of just showing off their power. Bakugo had pushed for years for Izuku to show off his ability, and when he finally did, he flipped out. He told it when Izuku gave his quirk back, he told Izuku to stay away from him, to never come near him again. I know that look in your eyes when you had it. I will not take my chances for you to steal my quirk ever again, even if you gave it back. Deep inside, you didn't want to give it back. You wanted to keep it. Am I right? I'm right, aren't I? Deku had called Bakugo wrong. He never intended to keep his quirk at all. Yes, his quirk was amazing in many ways, but that doesn't mean he wanted to keep it. He had his own power, and he was satisfied with it. But Bakugo didn't care. He told, since Bakugo was the top dog, he called Izuku a notorious villain, just because he could steal quirks from others. And everyone had begun to isolate Izuku. But no matter, because, well, it truly did not matter in the end, because Izuku had an extra ability with his All for One. Something I personally added on, which I like to call Quirk Splice. So, let me tell you what this ability does. Whenever Izuku steals a quirk from someone, or from anything, whenever he steals a quirk in general, All for One automatically uses its extra ability. Well, no, it uses its hidden ability. Just like, I'm taking this from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you know, stands have hidden abilities. Izuku's All for One's hidden ability, Quirk Splice. It takes its own piece of a quirk. Even if Izuku were to get rid of a quirk, or were to give it off to somebody, he would still have a piece of it to where he could still use it. And so, do you guys understand what I'm telling you? That's right. Izuku still has the quirk explosion. It's even more unique now. He may not have the quirk in full, but hey, a piece was all he needed to get right. To use it as if it was his. Bakugo had instead called him a copycat. But it's fine. Because now, Izuku had the overwhelming power of explosions. The ability to sweat nitroglycerin. To produce it from himself. Hell, to even control exactly where the nitroglycerin comes out for more power. To concentrate it even more. So now, he's Bakugo. But infinitely better. Bakugo can never compare. Izuku is just too strong. Upon hearing the abilities of her son, Inka would have no choice but to take him to the quirk doctor. This was so unprecedented, not even All for One himself could even foresee what would happen. As Inko had completely rushed to the school and taken Izuku to the quirk doctor. Now, this isn't All for One's doctor at all. This is young recovery girl here. I just want to make this make a bit more sense here. So this is young recovery girl, and after checking out Izuku and looking into his DNA and seeing on how it worked, she immediately excused herself and called upon All Might. And, well, she immediately called upon All Might. All Might had come into the doctor's office, as Izuku was ecstatic to see the #1 hero himself there. Izuku was a super fan of All Might. And upon seeing All Might he just couldn't bear the thought of being mean to this young child. This young child had done nothing wrong. But holy hell, did he look just like him. Oh yeah, guys, Izuku doesn't really look like his mom face-wise. He looks more like his dad. Because when Izuku had yawned because he was tired, because his mom had taken him out of school, like when they were about to have nap time. When Izuku rubbed his eyes, All Might saw those cold, dead, soulless, filthy eyes. He just couldn't bear the thought of looking at Izuku anymore. He would have done something very drastic. As All Might went to Recovery Girl, and Recovery Girl scanned his quirk. It's extraordinary. It's nothing she's ever seen before. And All Might would demand to know what was wrong. As Recovery Girl would say, he has your quirk. What? But and also his quirk. I truly don't know what this is, but this is so strange. He has your power, and yet the utility of All For One. This makes no sense. As they go to Izuku and they take a DNA test, and they have All For One's DNA on point because, you know, last battle with Nana Shimura, it was a match. That was indeed his son. But how did one for all get into his possession? All Might remembered that the power did originally come from All For One himself. So maybe it just within his genes, his child had dug deep within and found what little remained of it. Maybe its own little embers within All For One that he didn't know existed. But it's fine. But they had to let Inko know the danger that they were in. So after telling Inko exactly what her husband was all these years, All For One knew he had to go back into hiding. So immediately he disappeared from the face of the earth, never to be seen for a while. And Izuku was saddened to know he'll never get to see his dad again. But to see his idol, All Might, in front of him, All Might had to ask Izuku, "What do you want to be when you get older, young man?" And Izuku had told them, he wants to be a hero like All Might, save everyone with a smile. Now, Nezu had actually had an idea. They could guide this young man in the ways of heroism. This gives them the chance to raise a heroic All For One from scratch. Teach him the ways of being a hero. And having a quirk so versatile like this on their side would definitely be a benefit. All Might hated this idea because he hated All For One, but he had nothing against this kid here who was asking autographs from the heroes that showed up. But he just couldn't. He hated all of this. But he had to comply. This was a chance to create a heroic All For One. He didn't want to personally sabotage it. But in all honesty, he personally wanted nothing to do with Izuku himself. This boy was the son of the man that killed his master. He couldn't, would not, refused to associate with him any more than he had to. All Might had left the hospital, telling Gran Torino of the events that transpired today. This is a peculiar amount of events, Toshinori, but you know you can't let that man's actions guide your judgment. I know. It's just so hard to knowing that he has a son and he could be as dangerous as his father if we're not careful. That's why we're going to teach him the ways. Raise him from scratch. The heroes are going to raise him. Okay. But I reserve my right to stay away from him. As Gran Torino just says, I'll take it. Now, All For One, back in his own lair, was cursing the world. He had lost his masterpiece. His only chance at world domination. His golden goose. His golden ticket. Had just went up in flames. And he had cursed the doctor. In fact, he was tired of the doctor. You have disappointed me yet again and again and again. My perfect plans, always mind boggled up by your shitty overconfidence. I wonder, will you ever stop disappointing me? No. In fact, I'm tired of letting you disappoint me. This has been your last letdown. As the doctor begged and pleaded for All For One not to do this, he can still be useful. As All For One said, "Oh, I know. You'll be useful as a Nomu." As blood splatter would be all over the wall. Nothing but blood and viscera everywhere. As now we cut back to Izuku going home, he was upset because now he could never see his father again because of those heroes. But if his dad was who he said, then why wasn't he home? I guess some of what the heroes were saying is true. It's really sad. But Izuku still wanted to be that great hero. He still wanted it to be so bad, the #1 hero. To prove everyone wrong, he isn't a villain, like they assume he's going to be. But Izuku has great potential. But that, guys, is where we're going to leave it off there. So before you guys go, let me show you guys the statistics of Izuku really quickly, because I know you guys want to see it. As we cut to stats, they're all unknown because All For One has a massive amount of quirks. And now those quirks were Izuku's quirks. As everything is just, well, except for the evil part. Izuku isn't evil, thankfully. Health, C, Jesus Christ. Well, Izuku, that's also S+ now. It's just, everything is too amazing on Izuku's part. But you guys have the power to decide. I think I have an idea of what the ship is going to be. So, don't say anything, y'all. But I hope you guys did like it. If you guys want me to continue this What If, get this to 10 likes. Yeah, 10. I'm upping the like goal. 10 likes and I will continue this. But until then, y'all know what it is. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Peace.
She likes it when I hit, when I tap. Wait, what? Ay, shawty's the same. Now without me, she ain't function. Running out the game, I don't got no time for love. Gotta stick to your lane. I don't wanna hear you bugging.